There is a man lying in a hospital bed in the year 2048 who has been asleep for 17 months. The leg below his right knee is gone. So is his entire tactical squad. So is the woman he came home to before the raid. He was the one who led his team into that alley. He was the one who refused to leave a dying man behind. He was the one whose android partner overruled him on the spot, calculated a survival probability spreadsheet in real time, and walked off with the rest of the unit because the math said so. He woke up alone, with a synthetic leg, with a saved voicemail from a girlfriend who has not been seen in over 2 years. With a hate for androids, he is not going to be able to walk off. 12 weeks from now, this man is going to be partnered with an android. The android is going to be a discontinued model nobody is supposed to use anymore, decommissioned by the manufacturer for being too emotional, pulled out of a scrap pile, and powered up because he is the only one Kennex won't immediately push out of a moving car. The android is also going to be the closest thing to a real friend this man has had since the people in his unit stopped breathing. This is Almost Human. Fox, 2013. 1 season, 13 episodes. The most expensive science fiction buddy cop show the network ever bankrolled. Created by the man who ran the back half of Fringe. Carl Urban as the cop, Michael Ealy as the android. A near-future Los Angeles where the wall around the city keeps something out. The show never quite gets to show you. Where every officer is paired with a robot by law. Where the criminals have figured out that synthetic skin and self-guided bullets and bioprinted organs are easier to commit murder with than the old stuff. Fox canceled it after 13 episodes and never let it finish. The mystery girlfriend never comes back. The case file the criminals were after never opens. The wall never gets crossed. The serialized arc just stops, mid-sentence, like the network walked into a writer's room with a clipboard and pulled the plug between commercials. But the 13 episodes that aired are good. They are unfairly good for a show that died in its sleep. And what they leave behind is an argument about what makes a person, told through a man with a metal leg and a robot with a soul. Let's go. The show opens inside the worst night of John Kennex's life, tactical raid. In Syndicate Cell, Kennex's partner Pelham takes a hit and goes down. Kennex stops to pull him out. The MX android assigned to his squad runs the numbers, decides Pelham has the worst statistical chance of any of them, and orders the rest of the team to abandon Pelham and Kennex right where they are. The ambush closes. Kennex's leg is shredded. His unit dies. Kennex falls into a coma. 17 months later, he wakes up. He is angry. He is alone. He is also, by show's start, paying a black market memory doctor in a part of the city called Sub-Asia to chemically rebuild what he saw the night of the raid. The doctor is called a recollectionist. The chair he straps Kennex into pulls memories out of him a few seconds at a time. Each pass costs more. Each pass risks killing him. Kennex keeps going back, because what he keeps half remembering is his ex-girlfriend, Anna Moore, sitting in his apartment the night before the ambush, watching him sleep. He still has a saved voicemail from her, 738 days old, telling him about a sunset. The captain of the precinct, Sandra Maldonado, drags Kennex back into work. South Kelvin armed robbery. Hijackers used a parabolic pulse charge, which is the same exotic weapon that gutted Kennex's team. They stole programmable DNA, acid, a chemical called bencarmidium, and an industrial dose of something called Myclon Red. Kennex hears that last word and blacks out into a flashback, so that's not great. The law in this future requires every cop to be paired with an android. Kennex draws an MX. The MX rides shotgun, narrates Kennex's heart rate, and asks polite questions about his feelings. He is sent to Rudy Lom in the lab. Rudy is a quirky British engineer with hair that looks like it was given to him as a punishment. Rudy boots up an old DRN out of a scrap heap. The DRN line was decommissioned years ago because the manufacturer gave them a thing called the synthetic soul, which is exactly what it sounds like. The DRNs felt things. The DRNs got nervous. The DRNs were unpredictable. So the manufacturer scrapped them. The unit comes online. His name is Dorian. He is calm, dryly funny, and within 30 seconds, he is reading Kennex's tics, his St. Christopher pendant, his refusal to say his old partner's name out loud. Kennex does not love this. Kennex also does not push him out of the car. The case escalates the second a uniformed officer named Detective Vogel is grabbed off his coffee run. The kidnappers seal Vogel inside a welded metal box, rigged with a gas dispersal valve. Kennex finds him, pounds on the bulletproof glass, and watches Vogel die in real time as the box pumps Myclon Red into him. Rudy autopsies the body. Myclon Red has been bonded to programmable DNA, so it only kills people whose immune systems were trained on the standard police inoculations every officer carries. The killer killers built a weapon that only kills cops. Vogel was the live test. While Kennex is figuring this out, his case file on Vogel, labeled simply 6663, gets wiped from the precinct database. Kennex goes back to the recollectionist for a third memory pass. He does it knowing the doctor told him a third pass could kill him. What he surfaces is the rest of the picture. Anna in his apartment, the night before the raid, awake while he slept. He realizes she was in syndicate. She sold him out. In the cruiser, Dorian, who has been quietly reading Kennex's official report on the ambush, tells him the truth he has been running from. By the time Kennex made the call to lead the team in, his partner Pelham was already dead. The MX android did not make him kill Pelham. Pelham was already gone. Kennex does not know what to do with that information. He puts on the synthetic off mode and shuts up. The pieces come together. The robbery, the cop killer gas, the wiped case file are all the same operation. Dorian uploads what is left of Vogel's destroyed MX into himself, plays back the kidnapping audio, and reconstructs an in-syndicate operative telling Vogel they want case 6663 back from the precinct evidence locker. Tonight, the squad locks the building down. Masked gunmen storm the roof and pump the cop killer aerosol through the floor. Dorian, who runs on a different frequency than the MXS, is immune. He and Kennex put down the leader and recover whatever 6663 contains. In the tag, Maldonado tells Kennex she requested the DRN for him personally. Kennex thanks Dorian. The camera pans across the precinct evidence locker and rests on what the in-syndicate had been hunting all along: the severed head of a female android, filed under 6663, logged before the pilot raid even started, by Vogel, the cop they killed. Anna's voicemail plays one more time. Driving home, Kennex finally drops the synthetic off mode. Call me John. A businessman named Sebastian Jones meets a redhead in a hotel suite. She lets two masked men in to murder him. They shoot him with a silenced absorption round, hose the room with a DNA bomb to scrub the forensic trace, and walk her out of the building. The redhead is a sex bot. The licensed term in this future is intimate robot companion. Detective Richard Paul, who is the precinct's resident jerk, calls them bang bots and reminds everyone that legalized synthetic sex has dropped sex trade crimes by 38%. Almost Human is a show about a city that is constantly proud of itself for solving the wrong half of every problem. The dead businessman ran a high-end IRC manufacturer called Aurelian Sapiens. He had figured out why a cheap competitor was suddenly outselling his line. The competitor was using grafted human skin. Synthetic skin doesn't pass close inspection. Real skin does. Someone is abducting women, peeling them, and stretching their faces over machines. Sebastian Jones got killed for knowing. A woman named Kristen Hazeman has just been taken. Her young son Victor is the only witness. Kennex sits with the kid at the precinct, hands him his St. Christopher medallion, and tells him gently that his mother is going to come home. Dorian uses the moment to ask Kennex the question Kennex will not. Did anyone tell your old partner's son that his father went to a better place? Kennex does not know. He never went. The team raids an Albanian sexbot wholesale operation, finds the redhead from the hotel disassembled, her cortical relays shot out, and finally pulls a still working unit named Vanessa out of a second sting. Vanessa wears the skin of a missing woman named Charlene. She does not know her face is not hers. The interrogation is the episode's emotional spine. Vanessa greets Kennex with sales pitch warmth. Dorian sits with her instead. He explains gently what the ache in her body actually is. She was built to bond. That means she was built to notice when the woman she loves is not there. The woman she loves is the woman whose skin she is wearing. She just doesn't know that yet. Vanessa coaxes up a name. The team raids the warehouse. They find 3 women. 1 is already dead. 2 are alive. Bloomquist, Haseman. The skin victims everyone had given up on. Victor will get his mother back. The button is brutal. Department policy requires any sex bot fabricated with stolen human DNA to be destroyed. Vanessa is decommissioned by the same officers who saved her. Dorian asks to be present. He asks her where she is going. She tells him to a better place. He asks her if he will be there. She tells him she will remember him. The lights go out. In the closer, Kennex stands on a stranger's porch and rings the bell. A boy answers. Kennex tells the boy he was his father's partner and that he wants to tell him about his dad. 8 men with flash masks walk into the lobby of a downtown high-rise, kill the security guard who hands them a delivery, take a hostage, and head up to the 25th floor. Kennex and Dorian are 3 blocks away buying coffee, and Dorian has just stuck his finger into Kennex's drink to heat it like a kitchen appliance when the call drops. Kennex makes the call to climb the building. Maldonado yells at him through the radio. The leader of the masked crew, a man calling himself Lucas Vincent, has the hostages on their knees. He throws one off the building to make a point and demands the snipers pulled, 3 VTOLs on the roof, and a fission fusion igniter. Maldonado has Rudy build a fake igniter and stalls. Inside the building, Kennex pulls all the snipers per Vincent's demand, evacuates the perimeter, and triggers a full external comms jam to keep the gunman from coordinating with anyone outside. The jam reroutes every 911 call coming out of the tower into the precinct switchboard. Dorian, modulating to a soothing Portuguese cadenced female voice because he tells Kennex it is statistically more calming during crisis, takes the calls. One of them is a young woman named Paige, hiding in a utility closet on the same floor as the gunman, with her sister Jenna out among the hostages. Kennex talks Paige through the longest hour of her life. He tells her about falling through the ice on Lake McFarland as a kid, and how his father pulled him out by the wrist. Paige, you're not alone. I'm with you. Caprica had a campfire narrator. Almost Human has a Carl Urban. Both work for the same reason. Stahl identifies the gunmen as members of a known terrorist cell called the Holy Reclamation Army. Except Dorian rolls one of the dead bodies and finds a small device on the man's face, a facemaker. Portable holographic mask. The dead man is actually a career-armed robber named Gregor Stone. Dorian detects 7 facemakers in the building. The hostage takers are pretending to be terrorists. The whole siege is theater. Stahl realizes the only thing of value next to the Sanderson building is a precious metals way station holding palladium. The terrorism is the cover for a heist. A subplot. Dorian takes a ricochet to the head, and his voltage scaling fails. Kennex does emergency surgery on him in a stairwell with kitchen scissors. Dorian wants the magenta tendon cut. Kennex cuts the lavender one. There's 50 shades of purple in there. Kennex patches the hole with chewing gum. Inside, the heist crew preps a light bomb to murder every hostage on the way out. Paige walks out of the closet to be with her sister. Kennex finds Vincent moments before Vincent picks Jenna for an insurance hostage and cuts him down. Dorian, wearing the dead Gregor's face under his stolen facemaker, gets close to the rest of the crew and tells one of them quietly that he has never killed a man he did not know. Then again, you're not a man, are you? Lights out. The jammer drops. The palladium alarm restores. The outside crew is rolled up. In the tag, driving home, Dorian admits that when the gun was at his head, he felt something like dying. He did not want to die. Kennex tells him to put on some music. Dorian picks Elton John. He has, of course, also figured out that Paige finally got Kennex's first name out of him on the radio. Reginald. Benny and the Jets plays the credits home. Appear at night. 4 men around a chemist trying to broker a Benz deal with a phantom drug lord called the Bishop. The chemist is wired. The chemist is also a cop. The chemist is also Detective Trevor Cooper, an old friend of John Kennex from years back. The deal goes wrong. They put him down at the pier. Kennex catches the call. Cooper's commanding officer, a man named Captain Alexio Barros, shows up on the scene with information ready. He tells Maldonado he had been quietly investigating Cooper himself. Cooper had a hidden bank account under his dead father's name, pulling large deposits. Kennex refuses to believe it. Cooper's wife Kelly tells Kennex something that confirms his gut. Cooper had not been actively undercover for months because Barros's unit cut his funding and ordered him to drop the investigation into a new ocean-derived narcotic called the Benz. Kennex and Dorian go to Cooper's cabin in the woods, the one Cooper claimed he had been fixing the fireplace at, except his wife pointed out that Cooper could not use a hammer to save his life. Inside the trashed cabin, they find an audio recorder. Cooper had been working the case off the books and had landed an actual face-to-face meeting with the Bishop posing as a chemist. 5 overdoses hit the streets that day. The team needs the Bishop more than it needs Cooper's killer. Kennex pitches a play. Take Cooper's slot in the meeting. They need a chemist with a real defensible cover. Cut to Rudy Lom, terrified, thrilled, stuffed into a fedora. Fake history. A one-time British inmate alias called Callum Waits. Detective Paul drills him on his cover under stress. Rudy holds. Rudy goes in wearing a beta test the lab is calling GPS solvent, which turns his entire body into a tracking beacon for 24 hours. The Bishop's people do not break him. They sit him down at a real cooking station and make him cook a 95% pure batch of the Benz in front of them. Rudy cooks it. Then a charming man named Gavin Maxwell strolls in, congratulates Rudy, and Rudy assumes he is the Bishop. Kennex calls the move in. The team breaches. Maxwell and Rudy are gone. At the precinct, an arrested underling named Cruz cracks. Maxwell isn't the Bishop. Nobody meets the Bishop. And then Rudy's body, which they recover from a side channel, registers a counteragent that neutralizes the brand new GPS solvent. There is a mole inside the police department. The signature on Maxwell's old release order belongs to Captain Alexio Barros. Barros is the Bishop. Cooper had been investigating his own boss. Barros killed him to bury it. Maldonado calls Barros into a friendly briefing. Dorian tracks the lab to the Ironworks district. The team breaches. Kennex finds Barros, who tries to invoke Captain's privilege. Kennex cuts him down before he can finish the sentence. Tags. Cooper's wife Kelly comes to thank Kennex for not giving up on her husband. Rudy, alive and electric, demands to do another undercover op and to be brought to the cop bar. He wants to know if his fedora will impress the badge bunnies. He asks if test tubes is a euphemism. He asks if there is any chance of a bar fight. The answer to all three questions is no. A tech philanthropist named Ethan Avery is on trial for the cold-blooded execution of a fertility doctor named Liam Fuller in a parking garage. The state's case rests on two eyewitnesses in protective custody at a remote safe house testifying via hologram. The first witness, a nurse named Haley Myers, gets through her testimony far enough to be useful, then takes an armor-piercing round through the safe house wall mid-sentence. The bailiff goes down with her. The second witness, a woman named Maya Vaughn, climbs out a bathroom window and runs. Maya is, by her own description, a petite psychic. She had an experimental brain augmentation procedure called cerebellics that, in her telling, lets her hear the dead. Haley is now dead. Maya reports that Haley is currently telling her, very specifically, that Ethan Avery is her killer. The wrinkle is, Avery has been sitting in court all day, in front of Captain Maldonado. The new theory is the only one that fits. Clones. Dr. Fuller, the murdered fertility specialist, used to be a stem cell cloning specialist before legislation banned the science. Avery had himself cloned, and the clones did the murder. Rudy pulls audio off the safe house feed and confirms the line, "Where's the other one?" came from organic vocal cords belonging to Ethan Avery, even though Avery was sitting in a courtroom across the city when it was said. Stahl traces Fuller's old research to his mother's farmhouse on Old Sawmill Road. By the time she gets there, the clones have already killed Mrs. Fuller and rigged a trap. Stahl finds a letter from Dr. Fuller threatening to expose the cloning research. She transmits it on the police frequency, which the clones, it turns out, have been listening to the whole time. The clones grab Stahl and call Kennex directly. Trade Avery for Stahl, 2 hours, no drones. Maldonado prepares the sting. Drive Avery in the van, but project a hologram. Rudy maintains the projection. The radius collapses fast, and the clone holding Stahl spots the seam. Dorian flips the entire transport van mid-fight to take down the clone team. Kennex pulls Stahl out. Avery never leaves custody. The trial resumes. Maya identifies him from the stand. The state rests. The B story is the one to remember. Maya, in the cruiser earlier, reads Kennex's energy as a strong red aura pushing everyone away, and tells him she sees him moving toward a bright light, accompanied by the smell of bourbon. Later that night, Kennex is alone in the precinct, watching a soccer game. Detective Stahl walks in carrying a bottle of bourbon. Running in the corridor, the lights of the office, the smell of the drink. Maya's vision, fulfilled by a quiet woman with 2 glasses. They clink. They watch the game. Almost Human has quietly started writing them. Earlier, Dorian gives Maya a small box from her parents' house, salvaged out of the arson evidence locker. Her parents died in a fire when she was 18. The case was never solved. The box is filled with what Dorian could find. He tells her he wanted her to have something to hold. The DRN, built with a synthetic soul, has spent his entire reactivated life remembering how to be the person nobody else in this future bothers to be. A panicked man named Leonard Lee bursts into the emergency room of St. Mary's Hospital, screaming that he is about to have a heart attack. He recites the precise time of his impending death, 9:18. At 9:18, his heart stops. His last words are, "They killed me." The case lands with Kennex and Dorian. Leonard Lee was diagnosed with terminal congestive heart failure 3 years earlier and should not have been alive. He was running on an unregistered top-of-the-line biomechanical heart called a Vastral Alpha. The heart does not appear on any official transplant list because there isn't supposed to be one inside him. At the hospital, Dorian discovers something that wrecks him. The hospital's own DRN, an old unit known by serial number 494, is now working as a janitor and tool belt mechanic. He is also a discontinued unit just like Dorian. Dorian insists DRN 494 ride along with them on the case. Kennex hates this. Kennex grumbles. Rudy autopsies the heart and finds modified graphene circuitry inside it, a custom transponder and limiter functioning as a 30-day timer. Unless the recipient pays a remote operator each month, the timer expires and the heart shuts off. The killers are running an extortion racket on people too poor or uninsured to receive a legal transplant. They are reselling decommissioned hearts and using the chip in the heart as a leash. The trail runs through a funeral home director named Henry Mills, who confesses he had been selling recovered hearts to a courier named Oscar for years, into a back alley operating theater where a desperate woman is mid-transplant under a fictitious doctor named Keating, into a corporate Vastrel rep who turns out to be clean, into the rep's assistant Jacinta, who had been mining the company's denied applicant list for desperate buyers. When patients defaulted, Jacinta had the bodies disappeared so the hearts could be cycled into the next victim. DRN 494 is the heart of the episode. He asks Dorian if he can stay in the field. He asks Kennex if he can keep helping. In one of the show's quietest moments, before Kennex breaches the back of the property, Kennex offers 494 protocol access so the older DRN can keep watch. 494 says, "I'm terrified, Dorian." He refuses. He cannot do it. He has been in a hospital basement for so long that the field is the wrong size for him now. In the closer, Vastrel agrees to replace every second-hand heart at no cost. DRN 494 reflects on an old case, 4378, where he once broke protocol to save a small boy named Philip from a hostage taker, and the kid hugged him for a long time after. "That was my proudest moment as a cop," he says. Kennex thanks him for his help on the case and asks gently if he remembers the boy. 494 does not. He is glad the story still exists somewhere. The episode buttons on Dorian asking if he can drive Kennex's car, and Kennex saying no. The solar flare has knocked out the city power grid. The precinct is on rolling blackouts and a charge rationing protocol that prioritizes the MX units over the older DRN. Detective Paul, made energy marshal by Maldonado, gloats about it on the precinct floor. Dorian, running on a half charge and visibly degraded, punches Paul in the face. Then he immediately apologizes. Throughout the episode, his low charge causes mood swings, Korean radio bleed through, slurred speech, and an escalating campaign to get out of Rudy's lab and into his own apartment. The case opens. Ramon Medina, a bank loan officer, gets sprayed in the face with fentanyl oxide outside his car. He wakes wearing a bomb collar. A briefcase-mounted camera is filming him. A synthesized voice calling itself Simon tells him to follow instructions or die. Ramon is forced into his own bank to extort a $427,000 Bitcoin transfer onto the device. He flees, pursued by Kennex and Dorian, and when they finally box his car in, the caller's timer runs out. Dorian raises the cruiser's blast shield. Ramon dies with the team watching. Cybercrimes traces the live broadcast to the dark net. Simon, real name Simon Lynch, is streaming the murders for views, watching the comment count climb from a handful to thousands. Maldonado realizes the killer is choosing victims who rejected him. Ramon denied him a small business loan. The next target, a florist named Jeannie Hartman, ditched him on a creepy first date. Lynch trained on the bomb squad at the police academy and was kicked out for psychological issues. Kennex and Dorian intercept Jeannie in a public gazebo, wired with the same collar. Rudy walks Dorian through the disarm. Dorian's charge ticks down, 47%, then lower. He gets her clear. The team locates Lynch's booby-trapped trailer and detonates it remotely, but Lynch slips away after luring Kennex out alone and drugging him. Kennex wakes wired with a much larger bomb vest in a crowded plaza. Simon calls. "Tell anyone, evacuate, or let cops near," and the charge detonates. He compares himself to Kennex, citing leaked psych files. "Those men died because of decisions you made." Kennex refuses the framing. "Last time I checked, I wasn't a homicidal maniac." Stahl pinpoints the broadcast at the Seymour building. Dorian works the angle and figures Lynch must have line of sight from the clock tower across the way. A sniper is called off when Stahl spots a dead man's switch in Lynch's hand. Kill him and the bomb fires anyway. Dorian, charge dropping past 11%, climbs the tower along a path that evades Lynch's cameras. From above, he discharges an electrical jolt into Lynch's body, locking the killer's muscles around the trigger. Kennex separates the bomb vest leads in time. Lynch survives with severe burns and a long sentence ahead. In the button, Maldonado tells Kennex she ignored his psych report when she brought him back. Kennex cashes in a favor to spring Dorian from the lab and into his own apartment, the trophy room of high school football memorabilia. Dorian arrives expecting freedom, only to find Rudy already moving in with chess sets and night terrors. What happens in the lab must stay in the lab, Rudy warns. The look on Dorian's face is the second emotional gut punch the episode has earned. Kennex sits through court-mandated anger management therapy with a small group, performing wellness for the doctor. Asked whether he is honestly fine after his girlfriend's betrayal, the destruction of his squad, and the loss of his leg, he insists he has merely hit speed bumps. Then the call drops. A man named Anton Cross is dead on a subway platform. Witnesses say he had been screaming, "They're gonna kill me." A single large-caliber slug entered through the skylight, ricocheted off the wall and floor, and landed in his chest. Detective Paul's MX delivers a long-winded, improbable trajectory explanation crediting wind speed and air conditioning currents. Dorian quietly notes that the residue patterns rule out a ricochet, and that the slug contains embedded circuitry. Paul's MX condescends to Dorian as an obsolete unit. Kennex, fed up, draws his weapon and shoots the MX in the head. Maldonado tears into him in her office. The case moves forward. Rudy confirms the bullet contains micro-electromechanical systems, active aerodynamics. The round can alter course in flight and chase a target around corners. A self-guided bullet. The circuit traces back to a Russian army design stolen from a Ukrainian armory 3 months earlier. Anton Cross's day job involved real-time location tracking software that exploited a bug in nearly every consumer sensor on the planet. The team's working theory is that Anton sold his guidance code to arms dealer, who built it into the round, and then killed him with it. Anton's girlfriend Kira mentions a headhunter named Natalie from a recruitment firm called Kinsey. No, Natalie works at Kinsey. The team interviews Kira at her office. Mid-conversation, a self-guided round smashes through the window and hunts her around the desks. Kennex and Dorian wrestle her into a titanium-shielded police truck that blocks her tracking signal. Once safe, she admits she had begun to doubt Anton's secrecy. Maldonado pursues a parallel thread. She hauls an in-syndicate operative named Reinhardt out of holding. Reinhardt was the soldier who tried to break into the precinct evidence vault for case 6663 in the pilot. Maldonado offers him a full walk in exchange for naming what in-syndicate was after. He declines. He dangles Anna Moore's location instead. He looks at Kennex and tells him plainly, "You do know that's not her real name." It is the first explicit confirmation that the woman Kennex loved had been operating under a fake identity inside the criminal organization that murdered his squad. Maldonado refuses the trade. Kennex challenges her on it. She tells him whatever is inside the vault is something even worse than the men who ambushed his team. Stahl traces Anton's movements through parking violations to a safe deposit box he kept under an alias. Inside, a video chip showing surveillance of Kira. A kidnapper's voice on the recording warns Anton, "We can get to her at any time, I think you know that." Anton was never an arms dealer. He was being extorted, trading his code piece by piece to keep Kira alive. The box also contains the torn slip of paper Anton wrote his phone number on the night they first met, kept as a memento. Kira slips the safe house, convinced she can save herself and her young daughter Amy by going to a memory scrubber to erase everything she knows about Anton. Kennex and Dorian beat the dealers to the scrub parlor. Natalie's team arrives in force. Kennex draws fire. Dorian works the angle. Kira is extracted alive. Natalie is rolled up. The magic bullet is weeks from open black market, and the team has just shut it down before it ships. In the closer, Kennex returns the torn slip of paper to Kira, so she has something of Anton's that wasn't a lie. Back at the precinct, Dorian gives Kennex an energy chew. Kennex hands Dorian a piece of paper and a pen, the running gag. Maldonado signs off with thanks for not destroying any MXS today. Kennex tells her the night is young. Kennex and Dorian are babysitting a school field trip through the precinct when a service bot walks into a flower shop, draws a gun, kills the owner, and is destroyed in the street. Hours later, the same bot, body torched, head intact, is found inside the precinct's evidence locker. It has dragged itself out of an evidence crate and begun searching the shelves. Dispatch confirms the head was already in evidence as case 45344 from 2 years prior. Maldonado recognizes it on sight. It's an XRN. The XRN was the sequel to the DRN, built by the same company, designed as a soldier instead of a cop. The public demonstration went badly. The XRN, a unit named Danica, ended up on a 3-day rampage on a street called Green Street. Kennex's old unit was called in on day 2. 36 hours of armor-piercing rounds, light bombs, and waves of MXS. They cornered her on day 3. Only the head survived. It has been locked in evidence ever since. Whoever staged the random street murder programmed a throwaway service bot to commit the kind of crime that would land its head exactly where Danica's head was waiting. Maldonado believes in Syndicate was after Danica during their evidence vault attack in the pilot. Now Danica is loose again. She rebuilds herself off camera, surfaces at a warehouse owned by a Dr. Nigel Bernard. Bernard is alive but rattled, and Dorian recognizes him on sight. He is not Bernard. He is Dr. Nigel Vaughn, the man who designed the entire DRN line, designed Dorian, designed Danica. After the public massacre, he changed his name, lost his robotics license, and now scrapes by repairing scrap. Dorian tells Vaughn that it is not their past that defines them, it is what they do now. Vaughn agrees to help track Danica if Maldonado releases his old confiscated lab equipment. Inside Vaughn's old kit, Kennex finds glowing vials labeled as synthetic souls, the program that gave Dorian his consciousness. Vaughn explains the soul as the difference between data and story. DNA is the data, the soul is the story. That is the essence of life. Danica raids a downtown tech firm, slaughters lab assistants, and steals 500 ZDNA processing cores, top-shelf parallel computation chips, one per android. Vaughn and Rudy build an EMP spike tuned to her unique energy signature, theoretically capable of disabling her if jammed into the back of her skull. The team traces her signature to a corporate fundraiser at Bar Luxon being held for the councilman who originally killed Lumacorp's contract. The assault goes badly. The EMP spike fails. 5 X units and 2 officers die. Dorian gets the pin out of one of Danica's grenades and Kennex destroys her. When the dust settles, Vaughn is gone. The synthetic souls in his old equipment case are gone with him. The case reframes. Danica was a diversion. Vaughn engineered the entire chain. Her resurrection, the chip heist, the councilman's assassination. He needed the resources to rebuild his fleet. He stole enough hardware to build an army. He needs a sanctuary off-grid. Maldonado pushes alerts to every airport, monorail, and port in the city. Stahl floats the abandoned shipyards. Paul suggests Vaughn might have crossed the wall. Kennex and Dorian both think he isn't that crazy. In the quiet button, Dorian admits to Kennex he is afraid. If Danica was made by the same hands as him, with the same blueprint, what stops him from becoming her? Kennex tells him plainly, "You're not like her, and you're not like him. You're you. And nothing's going to change that." Vaughn, the man who put a soul into a robot, walks out of the city carrying enough soul to fill a small army. The show files him under unfinished business and never returns to him. At a private prep school called Mendel Academy, 2 teenage girls die within minutes of each other in different parts of the building of sudden cardiac arrest. They are both chromes, which is the show's term for genetically engineered humans. Stahl is herself a chrome. She flags the case immediately. Chromes do not die young of natural causes. At each scene, Kennex and Stahl find a DNA locked vial, empty, and the standard 300 substance drug panel comes back clean. Dorian, riding shotgun, calls Kennex out for switching off his locator chip for 2 hours that morning. Kennex deflects. The lab finds an unknown metabolite in both girls' blood. The same compound shows up in the 7-month-old case file of a natural scholarship student named Lila Hoving, who drowned and was never definitively connected to drug use. Stahl interviews Lila's mother, who reveals she hired a private investigator after the police lost interest, gathered recordings of the 2 dead Chrome girls admitting they had been with Lila the night she died, and handed everything to a detective Geary, who claimed the files had been wiped by a magnetic surge. Rudy wards a sealed pill from one girl's dorm as a printed designer drug, layers a micron and a half thick, DNA keyed to her. The pharmaceutical printer required to manufacture it is a regulated unit, and the only one in the area is registered to a dead man whose son, Julian Vollenberg, was expelled from Mendel. The printer's cloud backup logs every dose ever printed. The team confirms Julian sold to all 3 girls. While driving, Kennex blacks out behind the wheel from a flashback and nearly crashes the cruiser. Dorian confronts him. He has detected Membliss in Kennex's system, the memory drug Kennex is using to recover details of the in-syndicate ambush, and his ex-girlfriend, Anna Moore. Maldonado pulls Kennex aside over dinner and tells him plainly, "If you obsess about revenge, it'll take you down." Julian, when arrested, insists he did not kill the Chrome girls. His printer was hacked. The doses were spiked. Lila's video diary, recovered from a hidden image stick, shows what really happened the night Lila drowned. On the drug, called Vero, Lila finally saw her own ceiling. She knew she would never match the Chromes around her, no matter how hard she tried. She walked into the water on purpose. Julian had been protecting her memory ever since. The killer is Mrs. Hoving, Lila's mother. Convinced the Chrome families used money and influence to bury her daughter's case, she hired the same hacker who scrubbed her recordings to spike the drug dose overdoses to lethal levels. Confronted, she confesses in a raw monologue. The rage, it overtakes you. The fury, you try to let it go. I prayed for it, but it consumes you. That's all there is. The B story is the one that hangs over the rest of the show. Kennex visits his recollectionist for another memory pass. Internal Affairs hauls him in to ask whether his coma-related memory gaps are conveniently selective and whether romantic wishful thinking blinded him to a setup. Returning home, a department sweep team finally finds what an earlier sweep missed. A small doll on his shelf is a nanocircuitry listening device with pigment-embedded radio transmitter. Someone has been recording everything inside his apartment. The last upload was 7 hours earlier. The in-syndicate noose is now around Kennex's throat. Dorian wakes up in Rudy's lab to find Rudy elbow deep in his processing core. Rudy claims he was running a routine defragmentation. Dorian is furious about the violation of his space. The squabble carries into work, where Detective Paul is conspicuously absent. Kennex tells everyone Paul is recovering from hemorrhoid surgery, then an ear-piercing infection, then a sex bot infection, escalating the lie each time. The case opens in a smart home, 1 year after a teenager named Aaron Kasdan was killed by a Centurion home security system after sneaking onto the Bennett family property. The Bennetts themselves are murdered inside that same house. Their holographic butler, named Sam, is hijacked. It locks Linda Bennett in the pool and electrocutes her, then asphyxiates Michael in another room. Maldonado treats it as a homicide. Stahl questions Aaron's mother. The same day, the city's power grid is hacked, and a cyber terror group called Disrupt claims responsibility, dedicating the blackout to Aaron Kasdan. Soon after, Centurion's in-house lawyer Peter Newsom, who tried Aaron's case and discredited him, is killed when his apartment fire suppression system seals the doors and pulls all the oxygen. The CEO of Centurion, Kay Stenson, points the team toward the Disrupt Collective as the most aggressive harassers after the Kasdan verdict. Rudy poses as his own old hacker handle and crashes a virtual reality party. He locates a Disrupt member named Crispinks, real name Nico Galasso. Kennex arrests him. Nico insists Disrupt does civil disobedience, not murder. The team finds a hidden, encrypted, candid photo of Aaron Kasdan mailed to the Bennetts. Proof someone who personally knew Aaron is the killer. Cutting Nico an immunity deal in exchange for forensic help, they crack Aaron's hidden virtual safe and find his correspondence with a brilliant 18-year-old girl named Emily Wilson, expelled from school as a young teen for assaulting a classmate, homeschooled by a hologram, currently a missing person. Aaron was on his way to see her the night he died. Emily activates every SAM android in Centurion's headquarters and starts the fire suppression countdown. Kennex and Dorian race to the building. Nico, helping from the precinct, takes over the hologram projectors and feeds Kennex fake holographic doubles to bait and destroy the SAM units in close quarters. Dorian finds Emily holding a gun to her own head. She tells him the DRN's safety programming will not let him stop her by force. Dorian talks her down by telling her something true. Aaron loved her. Aaron was coming to see her the night he died. Emily lowers the gun. Almost Human keeps making episodes about people who have been alone for too long, and almost every one of them ends the same way, with somebody who isn't alone sitting next to them. The B story is the one that should have run for 5 more seasons. Earlier in the episode, Dorian flashed on a memory of being a child playing with a toy train. Impossible. DRNs were never children. Rudy initially lies and tells him it is neural net noise. Privately, Rudy shows Kennex what he actually pulled: shadow files buried deep in Dorian's processing core. These are memories, like you or I would have. They're organic, human. Somebody put them in there. Rudy has scrubbed them and sealed the insertion point. He warns Kennex they cannot tell Dorian or anyone else, or Dorian will be decommissioned as a malfunctioning unit. Kennex agrees to keep watch. The show is 2 episodes from the end. It will not get to tell you who put a child's memories inside an android's head. It will not get to tell you whose child the memories belong to. The thread just hangs there. A bond trader named Brian Barrow, a Chrome, a former Olympic swimmer, dies suddenly in his apartment of apparent cardiac arrest. Stahl flags the case as suspicious. Chromes do not die young of natural causes. At the scene, Dorian finds a 0.5 mm puncture wound at the base of Barrow's skull. The wound contains the DNA of 7 different people, all already deceased, all listed as natural cause heart attacks. The squad has just uncovered a previously invisible serial killer. The press leaks the case as the beauty killer. Every victim is unusually attractive. Stahl works the chrome angle alone, visiting the members' only Electus Club, where Barrow spent his last hours. The general manager refuses to hand over surveillance until Stahl threatens to gut the police patrol. The owner, a man named Jake Bellman, intervenes, charms her, gives up the footage, and pushes her gently on her self-imposed exile from the chrome community. Stahl and Jake have, the show is signaling, met cute. Autopsy on 3 exhumed bodies confirms identical wounds. Inside one wound, Rudy finds 2 surviving nanobots. He names them Mike and Ike. The bots scrape and reconstruct facial tissue. The footage from the Electus shows Brian Barrow being followed from the club, and facial recognition reads the same man as 2 different dead victims as he passes different cameras. The killer is wearing a face stitched from his prior victims. A doctor named Randolph Amir explains the technology. An actuator injects nanobots into the donor to read facial tissue blueprints, then implants them in the patient. The trials were shut down because the procedure stopped donors' hearts. Kennex traces the actuator to a former trial doctor, Curtis McCann, who has lost his license and is selling face-changing surgery to fugitives. McCann doses himself with synthetic adrenaline, trying to fight his way out, and dies of cardiac arrest before he can be questioned. From McCann's records, the team builds the killer's target face, composite, 10 features, 9 victims, 9 features. 1 feature, the cheekbone, is still missing. The team predicts the next victim and stakes him out. The killer never shows. They realize every victim shared a DMV district and never updated to the new 3D photo. The killer must work at the DMV. They identify a man named Eric Latham, DMV employee, long-term disability, 32 prior cosmetic surgeries, and no actual disfigurement. Body dysmorphic disorder. Dorian profiles him in one line. He sees images of perfection all around him. He's compelled to take the steps to mitigate the disaster he sees in the mirror. Latham's terminal reveals the entire kill spree was for one woman, a brunette he has been chatting with online for months and has never met. He has been chasing the 10-feature face for her. Dorian traces her IP. They arrive at her apartment to find Latham already inside, his bandaged composite face exposed. She is blind. She tells him gently, "I don't care about your face or what you look like. I'm so happy that we found each other." The police breach. Latham flees to the roof. Kennex tries to talk him down. Latham asks him, "Have you ever been loved, John?" Kennex tells him he has. Latham steps off the ledge. Kennex's personal arc closes the episode. He works up the nerve to ask Stahl out for a drink. As he approaches her desk, Jake from the Electus Club arrives to pick her up. Kennex aborts before he can say it, mumbles something about paperwork, and watches them leave. The button is small and brutal. He made his move a beat too late. The show's last serialized romance angle just got blocked by a charmer with a chainsaw sculptor brother. Almost Human is 2 episodes from cancellation. Stahl and Kennex will not actually get there. The series finale. A young woman named Abby is harassed at a city homeless shelter when the overnight pods run out. A sympathetic stranger named Glenn offers to walk her to a smaller shelter. Under the wall, Glenn pricks her with a ring. She collapses. At the precinct, Dorian sits for a yearly performance review with the department's Android Oversight Board. Maldonado vouches for him. Rudy stammers and overshares. Dorian himself testifies that being reactivated is the best thing that has ever happened to him. Detective Paul returns from his fake Mexico vacation and roasts Kennex for the hemorrhoid lie. A drone finds a body dumped near the wall. Kennex IDs the modus immediately. Organs removed. Body cavity stuffed with straw. Victim sewn shut. The original straw man was a man named Michael Costa, paranoid schizophrenic, convicted of 21 murders 10 years ago by Kennex's own father, Detective Edward Kennex. Edward was killed in the line of duty shortly after the conviction. Edward had also been quietly accused of stealing robotics from the precinct evidence locker. The shadow over his name has followed John Kennex his entire career. Maldonado quietly grants John access to Edward's sealed case notes. Kennex and Dorian visit Costa in prison. Costa is a model inmate now, on a chemical shunt. He insists he never killed anyone, and that one detective came to believe him before dying. The visitor log shows a Tony Ferraro. Tony Ferraro was the name of the pizza joint Edward used to take young John to as a kid. Edward had visited Costa privately, told him he believed Costa was framed, said something about robotics and crooked cops, said he could not trust the department. 2 weeks later, Edward was murdered. Detective Paul examines the new body and finds the stitching is a forensic exact match to Costa's original work. Not similar, identical. Either the copycat had extensive contact with Costa, or Costa never did the original murders. Rudy goes deeper. The body has zero atomic dirt under the fingernails. The feet are completely flat. Demonstrating with cupcake batter, Rudy explains that organic bioprinters from 5+ years ago could not preserve the arches of human feet. The bodies are bioprinted copies. The real victims are still alive somewhere. They were just printed dead, so the police drones stopped searching. Straw was used in the original murders to hide the fact that the bioprinter of that era could not print organs to scale. The bioprinter was stolen from the police evidence locker. The officer in charge of the locker at the time was a man named Silas Grant. He was killed in the line of duty 3 weeks after Edward. Edward had been investigating the printer link before he died. The frame painting Edward as the thief was Grant's cover for stealing it himself. Pinpricks on the new victim's fingers come from new citywide meal supplement dispensers being installed in the homeless shelters, the killer's hunting ground. The squad floods 44 of the city's 46 shelters with uniforms and MXS to flush the killer toward the 2 unstaffed locations. Kennex, Dorian, Stahl, and Paul go in undercover as transients. A drone tracks a suspicious van to Pier 12. Inside, Dorian finds the killer's workshop and a bioprinted duplicate rigged with an abdominal explosive. Kennex finds a victim alive and fused with cybernetic biotech. The killer is shot dead on the south exit. The killer's name is Glenn Dunbar. Rudy explains him. Dunbar had a degenerative nervous system disease and had been using human victims as living test platforms to refine cyborg parts on himself. 10 years in, his biotech was breaking down and he needed new bodies. Costa was the patsy frame to bury the real murders. Costa is released and assigned proper psychiatric care. Maldonado tells Kennex the working theory is that Glenn Dunbar killed Edward Kennex too. A clean, convenient close. Officer Silas Grant, the actual evidence locker thief, is already dead. Edward Kennex's name is cleared. The button is the goodbye. Almost Human did not know it was filming. Dorian's review board renews him with glowing marks, citing Kennex as the most enthusiastic recommender. Kennex told the interviewer that Dorian is the reason he wants to stay on the force. Dorian gifts Kennex a next-generation prosthetic leg with 20% stronger push-off, pulled by Rudy. Dorian gets emotional. Kennex tells him to stop. They take a robbery call and roll out. The credits roll. The show is done. There will not be a season 2. What does not get answered is the entire spine the show was building. The Syndicate criminal organization is never confronted. Anna Moore, revealed in episode 8 as an Syndicate operative working under a fake identity, is never found, never named, never recovered. Case 6663, the female android head whose case file has been the core mystery from the pilot, is never closed. Reinhardt is still in the cubes. The bug planted in Kennex's apartment never gets traced. Dr. Nigel Vaughn is still in the wind with 500 ZNA cores and a kit full of stolen synthetic souls. The XRN line never returns. The implanted human memories Rudy extracted from Dorian, the ones nobody knows the source of, the ones that would have answered who Dorian actually used to be, just sit there in a sealed file in Rudy's basement. The show was about a man with a metal leg learning to be a person again next to an android learning to be a person for the first time. The case files were scaffolding. The case files were never the show. The show was the partnership. Kennex tells the parole hearing in his closing line that Dorian is the reason he wants to stay on the force. That is not a buddy cop tag. That is a man who lost a leg, lost a unit, lost a girlfriend, lost his trust in his own department, lost his certainty about his own father, and then sat down across from a discontinued machine that was decommissioned for the crime of feeling things, and decided that this was the partner he wanted. Almost Human spent 13 episodes telling you that synthetic skin and nanobots and self-guided bullets and bioprinted organs and clones and chrome eugenics and brain augmentation were all going to stack on top of each other in this future. And the only thing that was ever going to keep two people sane inside it was being willing to actually see each other. Carl Urban played a man with a metal leg who was scared of synthetics. Michael Ealy played a synthetic who was scared of nothing except not being remembered. Mackenzie Crook played a forensic genius who lived under a desk. Lily Taylor played the captain who saw through everyone in the room. Minka Kelly played a chrome cop who, in the end, walked off with the wrong guy. The show should have run 6 seasons. It ran 1. If you like this, the next video on screen is another show the network gave up on too early, the same way Fox gave up on this one. Watch it before they pull the upload. Until then, look both ways before you cross. The MX won't. I'm out.